Here are the key points and why this story matters.
Joel video. Why was that video good?
That video was good because I've been in East Ramapo for as long as I remember. I also went to Spring Valley High School. I've been in the school system, and we've definitely seen a lot of things, especially since our school board was majority private school owners, mainly Jewish white men, and most of our school was not Jewish. And they had control over our public school system over like the past 10 years, purposely voting no on our school budget vote so that way we would fail, and we lost about 3-2 schools.
Basically, through block voting, Orthodox Jews won enough seats to control the East Ramapo School Board and went on to eliminate hundreds of public school positions like teachers and social workers, while approving millions of taxpayer dollars to be spent on their children's religious private schools, ultimately gutting the public school system for the estimated 9,000 black and brown public school students, while diverting that money to their private religious schools.
Can you understand now why people have had enough of this? It isn't just that they move into communities and their kids get all on welfare, or they get on welfare with endless amounts of kids, and then they get all their housing built for them and they don't have to pay. They just get to practice religion all day, every day. This is coming at the expense of somebody. And I can tell you on good authority that this is... No, I don't have time for that, Tony. I don't care about whether or not you think Tyler Oliveira is a grifter or not. Every grifter, every once in a while, gets one right. I'm talking about this because this is my territory. This is where I'm from. And I know what these people do. Lakewood, New Jersey is just the beginning. Jackson was the next step. Ramapo was another. And what they effectively are doing, as you can see, is they are moving into these communities. They are taking over the school boards, the county commissions, and they're voting the way that they want. This is what they do. Power in numbers. They get people elected into positions of power. And then the next thing you know, they start passing laws. We have a very big problem in the state of Florida when it comes to public school funding, and it ends up going to private charter schools. Now, I'm not saying that that is strictly a problem that is coming from Zionist coalitions, but let me assure you, this is a rich versus poor game. It's always been this way, and it always will be. This is the same bullshit. It's just done in another context, because this is considered a protected class. So when they get caught doing this riffraff and destroying communities, no one says anything. So there's going to be a lot more. So buckle up.
They give us food that's rotten and it's cold and it hurts our stomach.
I ask you, do not take our music program away. I love playing an instrument. My brother would be crushed.
And the budget cuts were so devastating that in one instance, an elementary school shut down, and the majority Jewish school board then voted to sell it to a Jewish yeshiva for pennies on the dollar.
Once again, another example of how they skip on the bill, which is, again, another Jewish trope, but in this case, it's 100% true. East Ramapo completes school sale to yeshiva tenants, and they basically give it to them for nothing, or a quit claim. This is what we call it in real estate, where they basically just hand over the keys. Don't take any money. And lo and behold, voila. And now you're worth millions more. And somebody is going to be saddled with the bill. The black and brown people, because where have we heard that one before? Oh, yeah, that's right, because that's what blockbusting and redlining is all about, and it still goes on, maybe not to the extent that it once did, but trust me when I tell you, it still exists.
Basically, the poorest, most vulnerable kids in these communities had their schools gutted and looted, all by a majority Jewish school board whose kids didn't even attend public.
And if you've got one of them attached within the community, you better understand that this is only going to get worse. It will get so much worse. But when that name appears, understand that that, pure and simple, is danger. It always has been, it always will be. Let's see if we can get a good look at him. Nathan Rothschild.
Communities had their schools gutted and looted, all by a majority Jew.
There he is. He's really something, that Nathan Rothschild. Does it surprise you? No. Shouldn't surprise anybody.
to a school board whose kids didn't even attend public school.
We believe that some of the decisions that have been made by the board have not been in the best interest of the public school community.
You don't like it, find yourself another place to live.
And let me assure you, he really means that. One more time.
Have not been in the best interest of the public school community.
You don't like it, find yourself another place to live.
And that's how they think. This is our community now. You're not welcome here. We control it. And only Jews are allowed here. They only have so much of a population, so they can't take over everything. But this is how they operate. And the great noticing continues. Now, again, they're not all like this. But the ones that have money and power, they control it. Colin, if you can drop a link to Tyler Oliveira's full video once the stream's over. Like I said, there's a lot more to this.
And then you watch buildings get built before they're approved. They build and ask permission later, and then if they even don't get permission, they sue and they win for permission. So when you have all these things where they're creating hatred, they create the double standard, they create the animosity between two groups. And when I say they, I mean governments and people that buy off politicians to make favorable laws, because a lot of the shit they do is legal because they bought the politicians to make it legal.
Do you think residents in Jackson who do not want Jackson to be majority Jewish or to look, feel, and sound like Lakewood, do you think that is anti-Semitic?
Well, people have a right to freedom of speech and freedom of their opinion, even if they're going to be bigoted.
Do you think that's bigoted though, right? Because I imagine you don't want this place to be Islamic.
Only because the radical Islamists want to kill us. Other than that, I have no problem.
And they're radical.
So there it is. We have to do what we're doing because the Islamists will kill us if we don't. This is the same talking point, whether you are pro-Israel or not. Now, this guy's pro-Israel. I'm not going to say that that's the same for all of them. The gentleman, by the way, that Tyler is speaking to here, like I said, I had to cut this down. This guy right here is worth hundreds of millions of dollars, but he needs to feel safe. Very important. He has to feel safe. So he has to create communities, fund and finance communities completely. Because he has to be safe.
Well, Jews and they're radical Christians, right?
Which Orthodox Jews are radical Jews that want to hurt people?
The ones that are blowing up Gaza and are now blowing up Iran. Those are who, you asshole, scumbag of the earth, son of a bitch. Go fuck yourself from now until the end of time.
Many people could argue there are distinct sects of Judaism that are marginalized.
I don't know.
I'm just saying, you wouldn't want Lakewood to become predominantly Muslim. Radicalism aside, though, right?
Right.
Just like Jackson residents don't want it to be predominantly Jewish.
So if a Muslim wants to buy a house here and pay way more than what the house would sell outside of our community because of the fact that the prices go up when we come in, they're free to do it. And
yeah, but I just don't think it's bigoted for you to not want it to be predominantly Muslim. Why would you? You're Jewish.
So Jackson Strong is kind of like a unofficial organization that I had started. When I saw everything turning, I just was very vocal on social media, and I decided to organize. Certain people really wanted to get involved. There were a few of us that, we would have letter writing campaigns, making a lot of calls to county officials, local officials, and state officials, trying to find out what ordinances could be created, what we could do to help prevent a full-out turnover. A sign would say, Jackson Strong, don't sell, meaning if a new neighbor moves in next to you, don't run, don't sell. Why would you move? Stay strong, right?
Would they sell?
They would sell because it just got too much. And anytime you would say anything about it, you were anti-Semitic. I mean,
the other thing you have to remember, and this is one of the tricks of the real estate game that a lot of people may not know, if a community is being overrun by a certain population, in this case, the Jews, what they will do, if a house is worth X amount of money, let's say $350,000, but somebody comes in with a bag of cash, $650,000, it's kind of hard to say no, isn't it? And then that sets the precedent for the entire community. Oh, they got 650,000 for their house. My house is worth 650,000 now. And little by little, they take it out. How do you think they afford all this? They don't work. Where do you think it comes from? It comes from the pro-Israel organizations that fund these communities. Miriam Adelson, the guy who funds the Democrats, I'm forgetting his name, Saib or whatever the hell his name is. When you have hundreds of billions of dollars, what's 10, 20, 30 million dollars for a community to get them to set this shit up? What is it to them? They love this stuff. When you are sitting so high on the hog and you just look down and you basically play your game of Stratego, yeah, that community, we'll take that one. And take it they do. So this is just another example of how it all works. George Soros is another one. There's two of them, actually, that support the Democrats. And there's plenty that support the Republicans. Again, it's a shell game, and they're all on the same team. But this is how they operate in real time, where they do it in your local community. How, because of the fact that capitalism is completely broken and a handful of people have all the money and power, and they can just decide, hey, we're going to give it to these guys. They're going to go in that community. They're going to make it what we want, and no one's going to stop us. That's what's happening in Jackson, New Jersey. You know what's in Jackson, New Jersey, ladies and gentlemen? Six Flags Great Adventure. How many people are aware of that? That's where it's located. Jackson, New Jersey has been a sleepy town for the longest time, but not anymore. Not anymore.
There were Facebook pages created just to slander me. They would manipulate pictures of me. They would put, Russian hats on me, a Hitler mustache. These were things that were even coming out of Israel. At one point, there was a post where, somebody had said that, she needs to have an ice pick in her eye, and something like that. I did go to the prosecutor's office, and my Jackson Strong page was taken down for no good reason at all. It was just taken down. There was a page, Rise Up Ocean County, which was a pretty important part of everything that was happening. That page was taken down also. However, it was hijacked. So when our page was taken down, just for stating the facts, when you're bringing out the Kaporis incidents, when they're cutting the necks of the chickens and blood is pouring through the streets, and then you're talking about that and you're posting videos, and all of a sudden your Facebook page gets taken down, only to be replaced with a complete anti-Goyim harassment page. And you could report that page over and over, and you could have a campaign of people reporting that page, yet that page remained up.
Do you want Lakewood to be predominantly Muslim? Just you personally?
No.
And why?
Because it's a...
Say they don't want to kill you.
I'm fine with people moving in, but to have Jewish schools, we have to have a critical mass of Jews here to support Jewish schools. To have kosher grocery stores, supermarkets, we have to have a critical mass of Orthodox Jews here to support kosher supermarkets. By the way...
So using that logic, why would anyone in Jackson want Jackson to have more and more Jews move? If you're arguing there needs to be a critical mass for...
How are we infringing on their right to...
Who wants to go to a kosher deli or a kosher grocery store? A very select portion of society is interested in this. A very, very narrow portion of society is interested in this. If you were attempting to open up a kosher grocery store in any town USA, you would be run out of town. But if you take over the town, take over their real estate and their infrastructure, you turn it into your own, and then you could do what you want. So why would Jackson, New Jersey want to turn into Lakewood, New Jersey? Lakewood, New Jersey is North Miami Beach. It's basically the same town. Why would anybody want that? They don't. So again, how do you do it? You infiltrate. Notice how to the Zio doesn't compute because he's a supremacist. Oh, David, don't even start. The best bagels and schmears, you're not going to find them in those places anyway. You got to go into New York and a couple of places in the burbs in Jersey like Marlboro. Point is, this guy is a hypocrite. But then again, he's a Zio, so of course he is.
Ability to do whatever they want.
I'm not saying you are, but why would they want that? Why would it be bigoted?
They don't have to want or not want. If somebody's selling their house to an Orthodox Jew, the Orthodox Jew is allowed to buy the house.
Sure, but I'm talking about the people who are not selling their houses to Orthodox Jews.
Then they have the right to do that.
Of course. But that doesn't make them a bigot to not want it. It doesn't mean they're hateful. It doesn't mean they hate you.
What is it of their lifestyle that we're going to change?
All right, so we could start with the traffic. Infrastructure-wise, they're just throwing up these ginormous structures. They tend to have basement apartments also, so they'll rent those out. Right now, there is probably upwards 2,000 to 3,000 homes that have been bought and are just being rented out right now by the Orthodox community, that they will move in when they're ready to move into them. There's been a problem with light pollution. Now we're seeing just LED lights everywhere. You know, there's a lot of issues, and then let's just talk about the thing that breaks my heart more than anything, which is the school system. So what's happening is our Board of Education is going bankrupt. Between the formula and the state giving all of the money to the poorer communities, which has been proven to not work. We're losing that kind of funding, but we're being depleted from the busing. We are required by state law to provide busing to all of the private school students. Why are we paying for busing for schools that are not teaching a standard curriculum?
Why? Because once again, this is what happens in a broken capitalist system. They take over the school board, they take over the city council, they take over the county commission, and yes, they take over the federal legislature. And they get them to do what they want. This is what happens. And it's very systemic. And they're all on the same page. This is the logical conclusion to a supremacist ideology. And remember what everyone always says. They cry as they strike you. And that's what they're doing. Did you see? They don't want us here because we're Jews. We're taking over everything and we're turning it into our own and making it unpalatable for anybody but our own. But they're anti-Semites, even though they're not even Semites themselves. But that's, I digress on.
If 80% or 90% of their curriculum is religious studies, why are the taxpayers paying for that busing? And then
they shouldn't be at all. Pretty clear.
To add insult to injury, we have recently sold 2 of our schools, and they have been bought by the Orthodox community.
Who are you, Chris?
I am a councilman in Jackson, New Jersey.
What are we in front of right now?
We're in front of the former Sylvia Rosenauer School. The school was unfortunately shut down due to budget issues in Jackson. It was purchased by a private school.
Okay, so this is a private Jewish-only school right now?
Yes. As the state cuts our funding, we continue spending more and more public money on private schools, and it's kind of creating the perfect storm that's destroying our public education system.
So all of the school systems are completely strained by the influence of the Jewish non-students. They don't even use the public school system, but yet it costs the public school system a lot of money.
We Orthodox Jews, we pay the full school taxes to support the public schools and for busing. And the only thing that we get to use is busing.
You take Jackson Township, their pass-through budget was nothing in like 2017. What pass-through laws are, the federal state laws where it says that the school system has to pay for the busing of private school students. The more people that moved into Jackson, they go to school in Lakewood. So no, Jackson has to bus their kids to Lakewood. Now they don't bus non-Jewish students. They have segregated busing. So
oh, really? They have segregated busing. Isn't that sweet? Once again, the great noticing happening. And you want to talk about a culture that absolutely detests people of color? That looks, I mean, again, we may be goyim, but if you've ever heard the word schwarze, that's in another language. And I know this because I've been around it. I know that's what they think. And this doesn't surprise me, and it shouldn't surprise anybody. It shouldn't have taken the genocide of the Palestinian people for the Americans to wake up to this reality that this was going to be a cancer on all of us if we did not speak up about it. And now we're noticing. Credit to Tyler, where credit's due. This absolutely is correct. And I will get to that. For those that wonder whether or not Tyler's doing a good job with this expose, we know he is because this video got demonetized as well.
you have girls bus, boys bus. It costs the towns millions and millions of dollars, while at the same time, it decreases the enrollment that they have. So when the enrollment decreased, couple that with a really shit school funding formula in New Jersey, the towns spend way more money and they get way less in return.
And now, in a modern day and time, who thinks it's okay to separate boys and girls, not allowing them to be together, not allowing them to go to school together, be on the same bus? And because of a religious practice, you're forcing the public to pay extra money for things like that.
We have to send our children to religious schools because of the values that are taught in the secular schools. If there are population changes, schools consolidate. We're not the first place that that's happened, nor the last place.
The Jewish community is extremely racist. Could you imagine if I said that my children could not play with somebody's children because they were black? What a different conversation we would be having. Why is it okay?
We only eat kosher food. If our kids play in a non-religious Jew's home, they might be given non-kosher food to eat. Also, we generally don't have televisions in our home and don't want to bring the secular values of homosexuality, of adultery, theft, of cursing, and go on and on. We don't want to bring this into our society. The Orthodox Jews are paying full property tax, which is how the schools are funded, and we don't get the benefit of the school building, the school teachers. So we have to also pay for our private education. So
let's be very clear here. This is why when it comes to American values, basic American values, and by that I mean the Constitution of the United States, if you don't follow that, you're not a citizen of this country as far as I'm concerned. These people are not citizens. They're just guests. And we tolerate them. For how long? I don't know. We'll see. But they have no interest in, and it's not even a question of homogenization, because that's not what this is. This is about recognizing that we can be different, but we have shared ideologies. They don't share anything with us. In fact, what they believe is superior. And the second you enter into the realm of superiority based on religious beliefs, you have crossed over into what is supposed to be the most sacred element of our Constitution, and that is the right to free speech. The separation of church and state shall not be infringed upon, and yet they infringe upon it every day. And don't give me the bullshit that it's a synagogue. It's no different. It's the same thing as a church or a mosque. And you know who usually is the most righteous about separating church and state? The Muslims. What a shock.
So they're getting our money and we're getting nothing for it.
Your funding's going to go down. You're going to have to make cuts. You're going to have to keep closing schools. They just shut down another big school, which is going to be converted into, it might be one of the world's largest yeshivas right here in town. Let's be real. New Jersey State is essentially a criminal organization because everything they do is for some type of special interest, for somebody to benefit somehow.
There are plenty of county roads in Jackson. Nobody's saying that you cannot put your house of worship on those county roads where you could put a proper parking lot and you could have proper traffic. So why are we dealing with houses of worship within walking distance that could be on main roads? Air roofs are up. Why instead are we putting them smack in the middle of residential areas? Because it's another way to get people out of there.
And there it is. So when you control the zoning laws in a community like they do in North Miami Beach, they make it so that you can't assimilate or that you can't be any different. You are either part of us or we'll get rid of you. And that's what they do in these communities. They turn it into their own little enclave. And again, it would be one thing if they were just part of a working class community that all spoke the same language, but assimilated to some degree. Not only did they not do that, but they have a lot of money and a lot of power. And it doesn't just stop within that community that they're living in. They look to expand it. Hence why they're looking to expand into Jackson out of Lakewood. Why? Because they're probably running out of room in Lakewood and they want more. And when you have baby making machines, like these women are treated, notice how it's always the men that speak. It's very rarely the women. You want to talk about subjugation of the female sex? Oh, Okay, so the supreme leader is deceased. We'll get to that before the end of the evening.
It's another way to create a complete religious enclave.
So who is Morty Bernstein?
He is the council president in Jackson, New Jersey, and the most powerful man in the town.
Does he have the police in his pocket?
I don't think he has the police in his pocket at all, but the man does have an incredible amount of power. He's involved in political action committees with very rich and powerful developers, a lot of political connections.
Who are we messing with here right now, Chris? Was this a mistake? Is this video a mistake, man?
I'm going to be honest, the powers out here are pretty immense. Like I said, it goes up. You have billionaires from Lakewood being involved in what's going on in Jackson. People connected to the President of the United States.
If we zoom out, where does this all end?
Right now, it's gone to every town on the outskirts of Lakewood. They're buying up everything. Even if they're not occupying things, things are being bought up. I always say it's a real life game of Monopoly. So it's gone into Brick, and it's gone into Howell, and it's gone into Jackson and Toms River.
Now, I grew up in Manalapan, which is one town over from Howell. So that goes to show you just how close I actually was to this. I was well aware of how they conducted business. Brick is one of the more successful upper middle class communities at the Jersey Shore. And if they start getting in there and taking that community over, let me tell you, if they could take over Brick, they could take over anywhere. This is what happens. And the tensions will get worse. People will start fighting back, and they're going to fight back, and they're going to do it in a not so cordial way in the not too distant future. That's what we're heading towards. And I don't have any sympathy.
Now it's going into Manchester. There are large portions of property being bought in South Jersey. We cannot keep up with this.
How do you combat a group of people chosen by God practicing rampant ethno-nepotism?
Here's a problem, bro. One Jewish student in Manchester said to me this: you guys will never come together because you have no shared sense of purpose. And that hit me because he's fucking right. Jews have a shared sense of purpose in what their outcome's gonna be. And that's to expand the religion, that's expand their people. We don't have a shared sense of purpose. We're too busy arguing with each other. We're too busy talking Trump. We're too busy yelling about ICE. We're too busy focusing on Epstein's list. We don't have a shared sense of what is America and what are we trying to accomplish together. Americans don't have a shared sense of purpose about America. Jews have a shared sense of purpose in what their outcome's gonna be. The only way that you're gonna stop it, and the only way you can fight back about it, is by getting people that have a shared sense of purpose in the numbers that matter. Getting enough people with their eyes open to say, holy shit, something has to be done here. You have to get rid of the RLUIPA laws. I don't think it's ever been challenged by the Supreme Court. It has to be taken to the Supreme Court. I think it violates the Constitution. You have to fight fire with bigger fire. And the sad part about it is they have the biggest fires.
And he's right. If we cannot put our differences aside and come to an understanding about all of these primary issues and not get bogged down in the minutia of it, to me, this is everything. Strength in numbers and in an orderly fashion is how they've been able to get away with this for as long as they have. But perhaps as Americans, we are coming to the realization that our empire is dying and something is going to come as a result of its expiration. So what comes next? How do we unite? One of the ways that we can is against the totality takeover of the Zio state and these communities in between that seek to influence unduly our citizenry. Now, communities like this at that level, it's not the end of the world. It's not good. It's actually pretty shitty, but it's just one community. The problem that ends up happening is that they take over the levers of power. And if they can't do it in one shot, they do it as a conglomerate through financial and sometimes violent means. So you can see the danger in not dealing with this problem. I applaud Tyler and his crew. They did a really good job. There's some bias like anything. I mean, no matter what you do, there's always going to be people who are going to look at this and say, well, what were his motives? What were his intentions? You know, does he actually care? Or is he just trying to pin it all on the Jews, et cetera, et cetera? No, in the end, I think people have just had enough, because I know I've had enough. And I would imagine that most of you have had enough too.